We're continuing on with our study on how to teach, and we're using the 10 principles of true education put out by Sunlight Education Ministry. Now, the Adventist Home Educator has the materials that you can download free, so you can check that out on the web. We are finishing up our illustration on the skeletal system. The arm being the teaching arm that helps us to remember and also to see and better understand the principles in teaching. So today I want to share with you a flip chart that I have on the human body. This is put out by Learning Resources, and it's very nice. So we're going to turn to the skeletal system. That's what we've been looking at. And this lists on this side the numbered items here so that you can learn not all of the bones, but many of the major ones. Excuse me. Here's a bone cross-section as well. And as you are learning the different parts, then you can flip this over, and it has a place where you can list the names so you can test yourself. So also, let's say on the opposite side here, it has some definitions of the names, and some of the bones that we've been looking at in the arm, there are 30 bones. And I can give you the definition that this has of those bones that we've been looking at. One of the bones is the humerus bone, and the definition of that bone is the upper arm bone between the shoulder and the elbow. And that particular bone helps us to remember the methods and the manner in which Jesus taught. He used parables, and parables are the highest form of education that can be given. And so the humerus bone reminds us that many times the illustrations might seem humorous to us. It is a way for God to help us in this journey of learning that can sometimes be difficult to see the joy in it, because more importantly than learning the name and the function is the higher understanding, and that is the spiritual understanding. So the things that we can see, and the bones of course are hidden, but we can see them. The things that we can see are to point us to the things that we can't see in the spiritual realm. So this is one of the higher forms, or highest form of education, and that's parable teaching. So learning about the physical world is in many respects like a parable. Most people don't know how the physical realm points them to the spiritual or to God. And so true education is that very thing, helping us as we learn to learn laws and names, functions of these the physical world, and then how do they point us to God. So we're using the skeletal system and the arm to help us remember not only the physical but the spiritual, and that is how did Jesus teach, and what are the highest methods of teaching. All right, so the humerus bone, and then the ulna and the radius. And the ulna is, according to this definition, the forearm bone that runs from the tip of the elbow to the little finger side of the wrist. The little finger side of the wrist. So that helps us to know where that bone is. And then the radius is, the definition is forearm bone that extends from the inside of the elbow to the thumb side of the wrist. So it's that part on the, you could say the outside, the radius and the ulna, more on the inside. All right. Then we begin to look at the carpals, which are the small 8 bones in the palm or the wrist. And then the metacarpals, there are 5, and the phalanges we didn't get to just yet. But where we are now is looking at the 7th bone in the metacarpals, 7th bone, and we looked at each of those bones representing remedies, simple remedies of nature that God has provided, and we went over nutrition, exercise, water, sunshine, trust in God, pure air, and now we're on number 7. Number 7 is rest. Rest in the proper quantity and at the proper time is important to maintain perfect health. Burning the candle at both ends wears out the nervous system. And we'll turn there. The nervous system, let's see. Here's the cardiovascular system and the nervous system. So rest, if we don't get the rest that we need, it wears out the nervous system. Have you heard of nervous breakdowns? Yes. All right, so getting proper rest will help our nervous system. Jesus said, if we come to him, he will give us rest. And that means coming to Jesus means he's the lawgiver, and so it's coming back to obedience of law. So academics is basically learning the laws that govern and then obeying them. So when we do that, we find rest. The 8th carpal bone in the hand can remind us of temperance. Temperance means abstaining from all harmful things and using those things that are good in moderation. It is one of the most important lessons to learn if health is to be restored. In this day of excess, temperance is very seldom mentioned. This is a fruit of the Spirit, Galatians 5:22. And if we have Jesus, we will have his Spirit. Temperance, moderation, self-control. All right, those are the 8 carpals, and they can remind us of those simple remedies of nature. And then there are 2 more to represent the 2 arms, the 2 teaching arms that we've been given. And one is benevolence. Benevolence toward our fellow men and to God is essential for our well-being. A giving heart is not selfish. Isaiah chapter 58 tells us that this is the fast that God has given and chosen. All right, so benevolence can be represented by one of the arms. And number 10, an attitude of gratitude. This should be shown by all of God's children for the wonderful blessings that God has given. This will bring peace to the soul and promote healing within the body as nothing else can. You'll note that the last 2 health remedies or health laws are added to the 8 laws of health to balance them with the laws of the Decalogue. Then there are 5 metacarpals in the hand, 5 metacarpals, and we talked about those in a previous video, the metacarpals representing the steps of redemption. They also can help us understand these 5 principles. One, that we need to recognize the problem, be willing to change, number 2, revise our health plan. 4, progress step by step. And 5, experience restoration of health. These are the 5 metacarpals in the hand. Spiritually, these represent the steps in restoration of health. So they can remind us of the steps in redemption and the steps in restoration of health. Then at the ends here of the metacarpals, we have the fingers or phalanges. And there are 14 bones here. Spiritually speaking, the 12 bones of the fingers represent the 12 tribes working together. The 2 bones of the thumb represent the help of the angels and God's Holy Spirit, which gives us dexterity and efficiency. The joints spiritually represent the closeness with which we must work with each other in order to get the work done for Christ. Well, these lessons that we've been receiving and I've been giving here have been coming from the book, The Body Temple. The Body Temple is a book that can be purchased at Teach Services. You can find Teach Services online. And I have been reading from, the main part has been the Skeletal System, starting on page 166 and on page 175 and 176. I have been reading from that portion in the Skeletal System from that book. Health is one of the most important subjects to teach, and in the sunlight material, health is a part of the whole educational experience. So I like to supplement the sunlight material with other health resources, and that's why I use models and many hands-on activities in teaching health. And as we've learned from the Skeletal System, we have 2 arms, and one, the right arm represents the health message, and the other arm represents the gospel. So teaching, using our hands to work are so important, and I'm glad that we have been able to go over the different bones, the 30 bones in the arm that can remind us, because we carry our arms with us wherever we go, and we use our hands and our fingers to work with. And as we look at our hands and as we really contemplate the higher message that is taking place here in the work of our hands, we can be constantly reminded of the higher lessons, which are the spiritual lessons. Well, I would like to end here, and the next video will be the beginning of Chapter 1 from the 10 Principles of True Education. Be sure and download that so you have a hard copy and you can go through it personally, individually, and then watching the videos. And there are others that are going to be videoing classes as well, so we can all learn from each other many special things that God is teaching to us, and we then have the privilege of sharing. It is more blessed to give than to receive. So I pray that you are blessed and that you will study and continue to look for new videos on the 10 Principles of True Education. God bless you.